They actually offered me more than twice my downside, but it wasn't where they would have to use me because the downside is so large. And it wasn't about money, it was me wanting to be on the road working.
This might be the best setting we've had for any of these interviews.
That's nice. I mean, how can you get any better than this, you know?
It's a beautiful spring day here in Michigan.
Right.
Yeah, and we're at the Monroe Boat Club.
Correct.
Just down the street from your marina, actually.
Exactly. Actually, a hop, skip, and a jump away. 3 houses separate us.
Big Daddy's Marina?
Big Daddy's Boatyard.
Big Daddy's Boatyard.
I'm even wearing the shirt.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, show it off there.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you for coming out and doing the interview. I'm actually excited about it. And
yeah.
You know, especially when you're like, oh, we could do it at the marina or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Why don't we do it at the boat club?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very popular place like Big Daddy's Boatyard, but they have a better scenery right now because a lot of work going on at Big Daddy's Boatyard. So we don't want to get the painters in there.
I think most wrestling fans don't look at you and go, that's a guy who likes boating.
Right.
And that's a guy who owns a marina now.
Right. Well, it's, you know, it's a passion, and I never really put that passion, like wrestling's a passion for myself, but I've never really talked about, you know, my other passions in life. So boating and blondes.
So you're obviously wrestling and you're running the marina?
Correct.
Okay. And there's rumors out there that your contract is ending in July. So that's kind of what we're sitting down here and talking about.
Right.
So what's going on with that?
Well, July 17th is my last date there. They actually offered me more than twice my downside, but it wasn't where they would have to use me because the downside is so large. And it wasn't about money, it was me wanting to be on the road working, helping the younger guys, kind of like a player coach. And that's kind of my role, is helping the younger guys, whether it's with, you know, because there's so much when you're in, you know, a company with like WWE, you got to be able to learn how to talk to, you know, like whenever you're promoting an event, whether you're at a news station or something, you have to know how to, and I learned a lot from Steve Lombardi, believe it or not. We went on some media days, and then, you know, it's just do's and don'ts, you know, and giving guys advice and, you know, tell them the mistakes you've made so hopefully they don't repeat them. You know, and or stay away from making that same mistake, and that's you know, because a lot of the men and women that are on the main roster, they're at such a high level where not necessarily they need help with their in-ring work. It's just like how to pitch storylines and how to do this and how to do that, and you know, don't stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning getting drunk. You know. I mean, not that I've done that. You know.
But I think a lot of people from the outside looking in would go, they offered you more money. Why are you walking away from that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, you know, and I came back and I said, well, okay, because I want to be on the road. I feel good. I'm very blessed. My health is there, knock on wood. You know, and my job is to find the next John Cena, the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, the next Rock. And how can I help these guys? And if I'm not on the road, if I'm sitting at a marina, you know, yeah, that's nice, and I'd be very blessed and fortunate. I can't help those younger men and women go from here to here, you know. And that's one thing that I enjoyed on the indies is, one, I love driving. Everybody in WWE, they would always laugh and joke, and they go, hey, we're in Louisiana. They go, you driving home tonight? And you know, so of course it's 15 hours. Why wouldn't I? But And on the indies, I can do that. And with other companies, whether it's a AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor or you know, New Japan, I've done that before in the past, and you know, and that's something I can do now in the future.
So are you saying that you would rather walk away from the company so you can actually wrestle in the ring more?
Correct. And it was a mutual understanding that, you know, we're not going to figure out a number. You know, so it's like, hey, and they've been great. I mean, I can't say anything bad about them. I had a lot of fun. I was afraid that they would say yes to a larger downside than what they've offered me, because I was afraid that maybe they would still sit me at home. You know, and it's not that they don't like me. It's, you know, there's a lot of talent there, and they have to cycle the talent, you know, which is normal, you know, because you want to get guys and girls out there, to men and women out there to work. But and then I was afraid that I would become miserable, and that's the last thing you want to do when you're in doing something that you love is become miserable. You know that,
Sure.
So and I would rather take a step back and work for some of these companies and work the independent scene. So.
But you could have, taken a good chunk of money, maybe been like in the performance center helping people out. Like,
right.
Is the reason here, the reason they're throwing big money contracts at a lot of guys like you, is it because they're scared of AEW scooping up some people?
That's actually a good question. I don't know if they're scared or they're concerned, but if you notice, because I like to, tell a lot of people to shut your mouth, open your eyes and ears, and learn. What WWE did back in the territorial days when they had that vision, they went and they picked guys and signed them from contracts from like the Southern territories, the Midwest territories, the West Coast, and as they went across, so you realize those stars. And I think if they sign and extend, and this is no inside information, this is just what I think. Is if there's no talent out there, no other companies can grow. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or if they, there's a lot of stuff, whether it's Impact, Ring of Honor, and New Japan, doing more stuff over here, and Impact and AEW and all that stuff. If they don't have the equipment to build that factory, then there's not going to be that competition, so to speak. So I think that's why they're offering a lot of money. And do the guys and girls deserve it? Yeah. And it's not like they never took care of the men and women, and another reason why they're offering money is because you have to be cycled and you have to sit at home, so you're not there. They've never wanted to hold you up from making money, but they also, don't want to be afraid of, or they don't want to worry about people coming in and, winning the Monday Night Wars for 80 some weeks again, because there's a lot of sketchy time, So, I mean, the business practices are normal and that's what you would do in business, so.
But we don't have to worry about a 90-day compete clause for you?
No, my contract ends on the 17th. And like I said, they've been great to me. When I'd go to work, I'd have fun. All the men and women, they brought me in. It's weird now that you're that old guy in the locker room when you're so young and you're like, yeah, I'm the youngest guy. And like that, you're that old guy in the locker room. They're like calling you Papa and
calling you Big Daddy.
Right. Actually, I'd ask them to, but the boys, the guys would, but none of the women would. I was like, come on, I'll pay you. So, but it's cool because you kind of mentor them and they look up to you and they respect you, and the reason I don't drink, I don't do drugs and all that stuff, and that's another thing, especially being in a role like I'm in, as a senior, they can look up and say, okay, well, that's something to shoot for in that sense, and they should shoot to be like a John Cena or a Rock or an Austin to draw a mega. I was going to cuss there.
You can. That's fine if you want.
Great. So they can draw some fucking serious money.
But you could have taken a big contract. You could have done it for another 2-3 years and retired.
Right.
And you lived the life here. It's beautiful here. You have a marina. You could run your business. Why do you want to stay in the ring?
I mentioned this earlier, I'm very religious. That's another thing I've never really talked about. I try to go to church every morning, so I usually get...
Every morning?
Every morning I try, but I usually get to church 3 times a week, so I'm on the right track. But one of the things is I figure I'll roll the dice, and if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be, and sometimes you think, well, if I'm getting paid a lot of money and I still sit at home, if they went for the money so I'd work, but they still sat me at home, I'd be happy, and I don't think I would, because I'm not giving you advice to watch you improve. Like Vic Joseph and Alicia Taylor, those are 2 that I helped out, and I always tell them, they thank me, and I go, no, you did it. I just gave you advice. I'll never forget Vic Joseph in Findlay, Ohio.
I like that we're calling him by his WWE name.
Right.
It's Vic Travaglianti. He's still in my phone as Vic Travaglianti.
Right. I won't tell you what he's in my phone as, but anyways, So I'm the godfather to his kids, right? So so the fans know who we're talking about, but well, they probably do know him by his real name. But anyway, I go, we'll have to put together a 5-year plan for you because no one would return his call. I was working with Ring of Honor at the time, and then he emailed Kevin Kelly like a couple days before that. So I go, let me talk to him, and then we'll try to get things rolling. And that was like the first step. Kevin Kelly started working with him a little bit, and then talking to him, and then he kept on moving up the ladder. He got in touch with Dreamer through other friends, and then Dreamer used him on House of Hardcore and all those things. So and then Alicia Taylor. Warrington's her real last name. I met her on an indie show, and she's a drummer, professional drummer, always on tour, and she, so all these things she had, and I go, well, and she worked with the indies out there. I go, did you ever think about WWE? Because her passion ever since a kid, like a lot of us, we grew up watching it. So then I had Vic help her get the ball rolling to there. So it's one of those things where it's hard, like as a talent, in-ring talent, because there's so much talent in WWE. So you have to look at where can you go so you're working, and NXT is a great system. I call it a factory, because being from the Motor City, you have all these factories around you. It's like they're building talent, opposed to cars. So, but it's one of those things where I felt great about helping someone or giving them advice, and they took the ball and they ran with it, and they're living their dreams. And it's hard for me to be in a position there and sitting at home and trying to help people get to where they need to be, because if I'm with WWE, I can't say to talent, okay, I've watched your stuff, you should try to go to Impact or AEW or this or that, and so it's because it's kind of like you're married, but you're looking for a girlfriend, it's not going to work out, and it's disrespectful to your wife, and it would be disrespectful for TNA, or I'm sorry, WWE.
Sure. So. Well, I mean, we've mentioned AEW a couple times already.
Was that a slip of the tongue or no? Actually, it's Impact now, right? It's strictly Impact.
It is Impact, but everybody knows what you're talking about when you say TNA.
Right.
AEW is now less than 3 weeks away. Do you think that as a wrestling fan yourself and as a wrestler, do you think it's an interesting time?
Oh, very interesting. I think the momentum's there. I think if anybody's going to make it work, I think it will be them, because they have that football ownership of a football team and a soccer team, and American football and European football team, and then so they know the TV contracts, the sports. They have the financial means behind them, and they have a good business goal and a good direction, and and they have the talent, But here's the thing, you need, because it's not just it's a global business, that their AEW's gonna be, and in order to sell to toy manufacturers, to internet, or overseas television markets, they have to have guys like Jericho, guys that have been on TV, because when you're trying to sell, like overseas TV is icing on the cake. You're selling a product that you've already done, and it's just icing on top of the cake. So, they have to have, certain, and a lot of wrestling fans go, oh, you're just hiring, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a senior now in the wrestling business, but you have to have those guys with somewhat name value to get deals, but they also have to be willing to help build these other guys up, because so they can be the stars, Toy manufacturers, they want to know how much TV time their talent has, how much TV time they have been on, before they pull a trigger and say, okay, well, we don't want to spend all of our money trying to build your talent. We want to sell talent that people already know of. So in order to get some of these, and Eric Bischoff said that, with Hogan and Macho Man, when a lot of people were criticizing him about signing a lot of old WWE stars, that why are you doing that? You're trying to rehash that stuff. He's like, I'm trying to get these deals, so we're making more money and generating more money, whether it's through toys or overseas TV contracts. So that's the importance. But you got to have that talent. build up the younger talent too.
You were obviously tag team partners with Heath Slater.
Oh, yeah.
You were on the road with him, I imagine.
I've got some stories there. Yeah.
What did he think when you started having this discussion about, you know what, maybe I'm not going to re-sign?
He was a little upset. He's just like, I'll just re-sign and, we'll have fun and this and that. And, Heath Slater is so talented. You don't really see how talented. Yeah, he's there for, you laugh, at a lot of his stuff. He's funny. But one, he holds a dear, close spot in my heart because, my brother, he was diagnosed with cancer years ago. And I don't want to turn this sour, but for 2.5 months, it was like stage 4 and it was really bad. And, when you've got stage 4 cancer and there's no alternative, then the ultimate, then, your mind is just consumed with, not necessarily regret, but, it's just overwhelming. And when Heath Slater would talk to him, my brother would forget that he had cancer because you heard the joy come back into his voice, and we'd travel down the road, and and for that, it's just a kind-hearted human being, and he would just make them laugh. And to make a person laugh in a situation like that and forget that they have that horrible disease, it's just like, and someone that I've never been closer to than my brother, it means so much to myself and him, and my brother and him developed a little bit of a friendship. So, and Slater would always go, "Sick of Saul, sick of Dawn." And my brother thought, for whatever reason, that was the funniest thing. And my brother Jim touched a lot of guys, lives, whether it was Edge and Christian, Joe Legend, and when they would come down and stay in the house before.
All the Canadians.
Right.
Yeah.
You're home.
I'm a fellow Canadian, yeah.
So they would all come down, and one time my brother goes like this, and Legend and Edge and Christian, they all still bring it up. Barb had to go to a funeral, and he goes, "Funeral my dick," because he didn't want to go. So all of a sudden, like to this day, they still say that, and that was back in like '97. And then here, this is even better. Adam briefly, started to date this girl down here. Nothing serious. They didn't even, make it past second base, I don't think. And I'm not just saying that, but so Adam or Edge has a clean image or anything. But the thing is didn't he make love on Monday Night Raw? So we don't have to. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but no, he didn't even cross second base. He seen that she was a little bit of a clinger, right? So this lady would like call up like his house in Toronto, and this is when Adam was still staying at his mom, with his mom, and he was on the road a lot. And then she would call up our house, right, looking for him. And my brother was the type of guy, like he would get aggravated if you ask him the same question over and over. She's like, "Are you sure he's not there?" He's like, "No." And he's repeating the story to them. And so anyways, she goes like this. She goes, "Are you sure?" And my brother goes, "Bro, I told you, he's not here." And I'm so used to him calling chicks bros and everybody bro. They just started laughing. So to this day, they find that so funny. It's like, remember when that girl would call and he called her, he's like, "Bro, he's not here." So.
I gotta say, I love that you're not jaded. There's a lot of guys I interview who have left WWE and they have nothing but bad things to say about the company. You seem to be in a completely different, pardon the pun, boat.
Well, here's the thing. I know I'm reflecting on what I could have done better in the last 3 years with WWE. I think what happened is what I'm trying to figure out why wasn't more aggressive is because I think I was withdrawn, and that was personally. It wasn't none of them. It wasn't writers. I know a lot of people get down on the writers, but they have to answer to Vince and other things, and it's a lot of team effort, and you try to work in this and that. I have to reflect and blame a lot on myself. I think the reason why I was disconnected so much was because right when I re-signed, I was in the middle of a campaign, and I was doing everything on the campaign. And a campaign is a lot like a business, so you got to try to generate income from donations. You got to knock on doors. I knocked on 14,000 doors, which I noticed in Dearborn. There's a lot of steps and a lot of red doors. I thought my red door on my house was something special, right? But anyway, so I'm trying to run that. I'm trying to do this. And then right off the gate, I was already kind of burnt out. So I was a little disconnected. I could have taken care of my health a little bit more. I could have, as far as dieted down and stuff. And then, which I'm actually doing the keto diet I was telling you. But the last couple of weeks, I haven't been fasting. Eating great, but not fasting. my goal is to get down another 40 pounds. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Down,
So,
what would that bring you down to?
to my post ECW, right around then when I first started with WWE. So so I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
So I reflect and I go, okay, well, I could have done this better, and this better. I would have still loved to tagged with Slater, nothing against that. But I think like right now, like, I'm sitting at home for like at least 2.5, almost 3 months, and because they've got to work, the other guys, they could put me on the road tomorrow, I don't know, but as far as now, my next venture is, I know I'm going to be more engaged, because one, I like driving. I'll do a lot of independent shows. And then here's the thing. Vince said that if I can start taking independent bookings right now and the promoters can promote me, unless like a AEW or an Impact or a Ring of Honor or New Japan, I can't, they can't publicly announce anything until after the July 17th, which is fair.
Yeah.
But the fact is he knows promoters need time to promote someone.
Yeah.
So technically in the contract, I don't know if they can or can't, but he don't mind me doing that,
Yeah.
or interviews like this, but the reason why I'm not jaded is because I take responsibility for faults. Not saying other guys don't, but sometimes it's easy to point a finger, and I love the boys and I get along with all the boys. I can only talk about myself, and sometimes people have a different experience and they have a right to, be upset at certain things. But I think the last 3 years, I wasn't engaged as I could have been, and it was for personal reasons, not them. Like Hunter and I mean, we get along great. I still owe him a Big Daddy's Boatyard t-shirt, extra large. And Vince, I owe him a XX because I think he told me that his arms are bigger than Hunter's. So that goes out to Hunter, so that's no beef here. Did he really say that or not? I don't know, but Hunter, I think he wants a XX because his arms are bigger than yours.
You mentioned
what he said.
You mentioned your campaign.
Or didn't say.
I feel like you would have won had you put Rhyno on the ballot. Who's not going to vote for a guy named Rhyno?
Right. I thought about doing that, and the thing is you have to, like, nicknames and stuff you can put on there, but you have to go through a thing. So I figured, because I'm Italian and my middle name's Guido, so I figured I'll put Terrence Guido Guerin, and then like everybody loves Italians, right?
But it should have been Terrence Rhyno Guerin.
Yeah. Or Terrence Guido Rhyno.
That's just too much.
Yeah, too much.
But is your legal name Rhyno?
No.
Could it be?
Maybe.
I mean,
but I think
it absolutely could be.
I think I don't know if my mom would mind, but I definitely think my grandma would. If I kept Rhyno and Guido and Guerin, she'd be okay.
But if you were Rhyno Terry?
Yeah, well, maybe.
But I'm dead serious. If your name was Rhyno on the ballot, people who don't know you and don't know the guy you're running against they're for sure going to vote for Rhyno.
Right, well, we got to check that guy off. So, but maybe I'll have you as my campaign manager.
Apparently you need me. Jeez.
Right. And then, and that's another thing. After I won the primary and I lost the general, but I did very well. I looked back and I said, okay, what could I do better? And then, if I do decide to run, maybe as a council member or something like that, and and start off, where it'll still allow me to work, full time in wrestling. So I think so. But I'll be calling you for our camera's almost going to blow over. I'll call you to the campaign. It doesn't pay anything, so
great.
You can sleep on the boat or at the house.
What campaign were you running on? What's your platform?
Well, just common sense politics. A lot of times, and don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-government or I'm not anti-government programs. I think, things have to be more efficient. And a lot of times, because it's not the candidate or the person that's won the election, it's not their money. So it's kind of like when it's not your money, and sometimes a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle aren't held accountable for that money that they're spending. They're like, we'll get some more money someplace else, and it is a difficult job, a lot of these positions, whether you're a mayor or a council member or a state rep, or a governor or a lieutenant governor, tough jobs, and you have to my thing is I have the ability to pull people together. First off, you got to start a conversation. How do you start a conversation in wrestling? Everybody loves wrestling. If you're not watching wrestling now, you probably watch it with your grandparents. If you didn't watch it with your grandparents watched wrestling and they'd get all excited. So therefore, you have an in. A lot of people come up to me and say, especially after I bought the marina down here, it's like, oh, you're that wrestler that bought the marina. Now I'm in. Now I've got a conversation. Yeah. Do you have a boat?
Yeah.
You know, because I got docks to sell you. So if you have a boat, you got to dock someplace else, like at Monroe Boat Club, because one thing everybody's like, oh, a yacht club, a boat club, it's all these snobs and it's all these. No, it's boaters that don't want to pay nothing for a well. That's what I've learned, because the well, you have to pay for a membership, but once you get in and you build seniority, you get a well here. It's only like a few $100. I mean, so, but it's when they save money there. They have enough money and they're stupid and they buy another boat. That's where I come in, you know, or I'll sell you a T-shirt. So
you're obviously best known for the Gore.
Right.
Who took the Gore the best, in your opinion?
The Rock, and believe it or not, find this place on, I think it's out there on YouTube, or hit up Eric Freedom. It was at a show. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I gored Game Boy. It is probably one of the most vicious, and that was only 4 years ago, gores I've ever, like, you seen the place just like come up. It was so insane, yeah.
Like the Rock does like a backflip out of the Gore, right?
This guy I just literally cut in half. I'm like, wow, I really laid into this guy. Oh my God, yeah. It was, whether he wanted to take it like that or not, he didn't have a choice. But yeah, it was like a Gore on super steroids. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people do the spear, but the Gore is like next level.
Yeah, I tell people there's a big difference, which really there is not. It's like I have a low center of gravity and the power of these gams right here.
Yeah, these are giant legs.
Yeah, I could go to 0 to 60 in a matter of a second. So, and then, you know, like when you're dealing with taller individuals, they don't have that power below the belt, you know. I mean, maybe they do, but that's a whole nother interview. That's with a whole another audience and a whole other people.
I also loved your pile driver, and I was pretty bummed out when
my lower back didn't.
Yeah, so I was bummed out as a fan when they got rid of the pile driver, but you know, how was it for you when they banned that?
You know, here certain things, like at first I'm like, what the hell, right? And then you look at it and you're like, it was a blessing in disguise, because if you look at guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, when they're doing the stunner or the leg drop, their lower back takes a lot of abuse, you know, and then, you know, just with a pile driver, you know, maybe that would have cut years off of my career. So sometimes you're, you know, and that's what this is a learning experience for a lot of younger fans in life. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, you know what, this is unfair, this is terrible, this is blah, blah, blah. But one, I got a great move out of it. I was doing the Gore before that, but I wasn't using it as a finisher. Steve Lombardi gave it to me as a finisher, or he told me I should use it as a finisher. But then, you know, sometimes in life you're like, this is just wrong, but something else better comes along, you know. That, I mean, that's true in a lot of things, whether relationships or at jobs or whatever, you know.
When you gave that pile driver to women in ECW, did they have to do anything different when they're taking it?
No.
Or did you have to do anything different?
I just recommend them say a prayer. You know, if you're not religious, you better get religious real quick.
What's the key to not breaking your neck when you're taking it?
Well, don't look back, look up, and, you know.
Are they bracing on your legs?
Yeah, usually you don't want your hands in the way, but it's just like, you know, last time I checked whether I'm 250 or 300 pounds, I've got a big rump, so that takes most of the abuse. So, yeah, it's funny because, you know, like I was married and my ex-wife and I get along great, and then, you know, my success, you know, was like this, and, you know, going up and all that stuff. And then after we got divorced and I started dating again, it was funny because, you know, like a couple girls I dated, they never watched wrestling, and their parents are like looking me up on YouTube and seeing me pile driving women, and a lot of the stuff would come up was, you know, or looking me up on, I think, yeah, YouTube, but it was like they would see like a lot of the stuff in ECW and how I would curse in interviews, and they're like, you're, and this is before they met me or would meet me, and they're like, you're going on a date with this guy? Yeah. You're dating this guy? Like, you know, it's like, oh, he's not like that. Well,
You're
what
very
is he, a
much
more tame
you're very much the
human
opposite in person.
Right,
Than like
right.
your intense, hair down, like
being? Right.
brooding, terrifying man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny because it was right after the pay-per-view in Milwaukee. I wrestled Sandman, and that's when I pile drove his wife through a table, and on the off the ring apron through a table, and I was literally I drove back that night, and then I woke up and then went and worked on my boat and changing the oil and all that stuff in my hair. If I don't mat it down or wet it, I look like Snoop Dogg in that video, Gin and Juice, in the beginning. It will just fro out. So I was driving back. This was in 2000, March of 2000, I believe. Yeah, March, and then March or May. But anyways, I stop at McDonald's. My ex-wife was like, "Can you pick me up something at McDonald's?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So I'm waiting there, grabbing us something to eat, and it's probably like 9 o'clock, and I've got grease all over me, and I don't look like a guy that was just on a pay-per-view the night before. And this guy is talking to me in line. He's like, "Oh, yeah." And then we start talking about the pay-per-view. I go, "What match did you like the best?" And he told me a match. I go, well, I'm like, this guy don't even recognize me. I go, what about the Sandman and Rhyno? And he goes like this. He goes, "Oh yeah, that was a real good match." He goes, "I don't like that Rhyno fella."
Did you tell him?
Yeah, I go, well, that's me. He's like, "No, it's not." And this was in 2000 before the phones. You could just look up, and he's like, looking, I'm like, "Hey, if you don't want to believe me, that's fine. But I figured it'd be cool that you knew." I go, "I'm glad you don't have to change your tone and say you liked me But anyways, as long as you liked the match, that was what I was cool with. But yeah, it was really fun and entertaining though. But yeah.
Do you have a favorite ECW moment or match?
Oh, there was a lot. It was cool because I think working with Sandman, because that really put me on the map. And Sandman always reminds me, "Ow, kid. If it wasn't for me." Well, he never takes claim for my success, but he's like, "Oh, I put you on the map." I'm like, "I know you did."
So if you're going to be taking these independent bookings, how much longer do you want to be wrestling for?
5 years. We talked about this when a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Another 8 years. I want to work hard for 5, and then 3 just taper off and maybe get into local politics and more marina and then maybe buy a bigger marina, keep the one I have now, and then advance in that, and then taper off in the next 3.
8 is very specific though.
Right, because not Tom Petty, Richard Petty of NASCAR. I was watching a thing, and he drove NASCAR for 32 years, and then he retired. And it's funny because I think I told you Tom Petty, and I always do that. Like the singer, he never drove NASCAR. You mean Richard Petty? Yeah, I always say Tom Petty. But anyways, so I figured, I seen that probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I go, 32 years in the wrestling business, that would be cool, Wow. So so I figured that would be good, and then that way I can kind of I really enjoy going out there and working. And here's another thing. A benefit for me to go on, and work indies and then work for another company, because one, I have a lot to offer, not just indies, but companies like AEW, Impact, and Ring of Honor, and New Japan, helping the younger talent and then helping develop them, get them over, and helping them go to the next level. I can even work behind the scenes a little bit, whether it's in talent relations, whether it's as a producer or whatever, or a booker, or even storylines. It's one of those things where even WWE, and they probably realize this, that if you let him go, he likes to get on the road and grind. He's gonna, he meaning me, will develop more of, behind the scenes. So down the road, I could even, go back there under a producer or something like that.
Yeah.
So you have to have an open mind. You have to, and remember, when a door shuts, another one, and sometimes you got to kick the door open. So, and that's what I tell a lot of people. obviously right now Vince McMahon is the number one, and everybody thinks he's lost his mind. He hasn't lost his mind, and because like I'll hear him say stuff, and I've carried stuff, at least 15 years that he said in meetings, to this day, and I use them as examples. One of the things I talked to Rhyno about, it's like, listen, I've got to start setting up shows, and they've got to start promoting them. These independent promoters, I understand people with TV they don't want, but the thing is I put out feelers, before, during kind of like a negotiation. I go, don't think it was a snake move, but would Vince McMahon sit around and wait for the phone to ring? I'm making my phone ring.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I always ask people. And when other promotions come up, it's like, what would this person do? I even use Dixie as an example, because Dixie was out there watching TNA shows when I first started with them, and she was watching and studying the product, and like she would sit in an area where they would like disabled veterans or kids or whatever, they would, and she would make them feel like family, which was very good. And I'd watch stuff like that. If she ever sees it, she probably wouldn't. She didn't know that I knew that. And I would watch her to study the product, to study not only the wrestling business but their product and all that. So you have to be hands-on, and that's why I'm hands-on at the marina.
Yeah.
And if you're a nice-looking blonde, I'll be.
Only blondes, though.
Right. No, brunettes, redheads, I mean, I can't, I don't want to, but it's funny, my brother, Ron, he always goes, when Speedo Week at the marina, he thinks it's so funny. It's like, easy, Grandpa, with your joke. Ha ha, you and you guys, Speedo Week, this and that. But Speedo Week is right after Shark Week, and that's July 29th. Actually, Monroe Boat Club, July 29th is a Monday. It's actually right after Shark Week too, but we're not having Speedo Week. No, it's funny. We'll joke around about that, but it is kind of funny because he'd say that in front of some people. I think it's a dumb joke, but other people would laugh. And at Big Daddy's Boatyard, it's an atmosphere where you laugh, you joke, you have some fun, and you go home. So. But I'm all over the place. I had Red Bull, nothing else. So we were joking about that. He goes, "Don't drink too much energy drink." I go, "Why? You don't want your audience to think I'm hopped up on something else?"
Oh, so. We've had other interviews like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You can maybe make some guesses.
Right. Sandman comes to mind.
I can't thank you enough for your time.
Oh, no, thank you.
I'm excited to see what happens with your business and also where you end up this summer.
Right. Well, definitely this summer I'm either going to be at my marina or at Monroe Boat Club. And, one thing I really like to stress, live life, enjoy life. Don't forget to go fishing, to enjoy life, because you only go through once, and don't be a dick to other people, and just, and try to make a difference in the world and in a positive light. And then, it's one of those things where if you're happy with yourself, usually you're happy if you do charity stuff or help people out, and then other things good come. It's like pushing out positive energy. The Secret. You ever seen that? Yeah. I tried to leave on a positive note.
Life lessons with
there
Rhyno.
You go. Well, I'm going to write a book. No, I'm not, because there's a lot of bad shit out there.
Thank you guys for checking out my interview with Rhyno. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification so you don't miss out on more awesome interviews like this one. So still in Michigan here. I'm in an Uber right now driving to the next interview, and I have the worst Uber driver of all time.
Hey, I'm trying to pick up some side cash. Leave me alone. I'm not that good.
Rhyno's like the nicest human on the face of the planet. Not only did he pick me up from the airport today, now he's driving me 45 minutes to Livonia, Michigan, where Zach Gowen lives. I figure if I'm in Michigan, I got to do an interview with Zach Gowen. So thank you, by the way.
Oh, anytime. What he don't know is I'm charging him. I already lifted his wallet.
So you heard it all from Rhyno there, and the Zach Gowen interview will be up in just a few days. And where's Rhyno going to end up? Where's Rhyno going to be? Is he going to be in AEW? Is he going to be in Impact? Is he going to be in New Japan? Is he going to be just at Big Daddy's Boatyard? Yeah.
Or Ring of Honor?
Is he going to be Ring of Honor? Yeah, we'll find out. So
I'll be on the Indies for sure.
There you go. So I'm going to put the interview I did with Rhyno many years ago when I was still living and working in Ohio. Link that up right down there. And Thanks for watching. You're awesome. So is Rhyno.
Eyes on the road.
Yeah.
Eyes on the road.